Hey there, this is Thel Pruitt with his beautiful wife Julia here at 750 Texas Avenue, Kingsland, Texas. It's my birthday, and I'm going to just sound off on some things that are just really aggravating the heck out of me. I got my love cup in my hand because I'm just a loving person. I'm a person that gives everybody a lot of grace and I'm very patient. But I've been fighting the demagoguery of a system that is trillions of dollars big. It's the banking, Wall Street, mortgage industry. And in part of this battle, it all started back in 2008. And Bank of America and, of course, other banks have done the exact same thing to millions of Americans. They started off and said, okay, Mr. Pruitt, you got to fill out this form. But you got to wait for it to come to you in the mail. And so I waited. It didn't come in the mail. And I would call and they'd pass me from one person to another. And at the time, I was just like a lot of other people saying, okay, well, I'll just do what they say to do. And they say, okay, you need to send us this amount of money. I send this amount of money. And then they send it back and say, you need to send it certified. You send it certified. I've got all this documented. As best I could, knowing what I know now, I should have recorded the damn phone calls. But I didn't. This is 2008, rolled into 2009, and every day I'm agonizing, trying to fulfill what these assholes are telling me to do on the telephone from Bank of America. And it all started with a company called New Century. They immediately pushed my note over to Countrywide, pushed it over to Bank of America. And I know at this point that my chain of title is lost. Nobody has nobody has the original note. It's the documents that they filed out at the courthouse have been fraudulent. It's been proven to be fraudulent. And so we go into court. Our local judge gives me a temporary restraining order. Because knowing there's a lot of loose ends that are not right. And when it came time for the hearing, they didn't even show up. That's the first time. Second time, they did show up. And it's been a long, arduous journey. And every time I get into the court, they yank it over to federal court. And federal court, they just pretty much ignore the individual. And this has been my experience, and I can prove it. Anybody that wants to have it proved, I know the federal court doesn't want me to prove it, and the dadgum lawyers for the other side, they don't want me to prove it. But here we are, third time. I've been yanked over into federal court, and I've poured my heart out, and I've shown that I haven't refused to make payments. I've been totally shut down for making payments, and they can't prove that they even own the note anymore. The people that are the company that's supposed to own the note, they were shut down by the SEC in 2006. The company is supposed to transfer my note. They went out of business in 2008. So it's a mess. And the federal court needs to recognize, and our senators, our congressmen, they need to put a stop to this. There needs to be a law that says that every homeowner has the right to see the chain of title. And unfortunately, it's estimated 70 million Americans don't have a clear chain of title, and they don't know it. So at any rate, I'm going to go through this document that the attorneys at Locke and Lord in Austin put together. And at the very first, it says, Introduction. This is a defendant's response to the plaintiff's objection to the report and recommendation. The recommendation from Judge Lane was just ignore this sucker and maybe he'll go away, basically. And, Judge Lane, I don't know Judge Lane, but he has treated me like I'm the problem. And, of course, to me, the court system, the federal court system, is part of the problem. And I'm just asking him to become part of the solution instead of the problem. Pay attention to what this guy is saying and at least give him the credence of he's telling the truth. give them a chance to prove it. At any rate, it says, okay, rather than, this is from the defendants, rather than make payments to cure the default, plaintiff has instituted a series of lawsuits to avoid foreclosure. That's a lie. I did everything I could possibly do. And of course, knowing what I know now, even if they'd taken payments, I don't know where it would have gone. Because who owns the note anymore? Nobody knows. And nobody will stand up and say, okay, here's the chain of title. They'll file a fraudulent document, which is illegal. It's a second-degree felony to do, but they'll file it anyway because they know they can get by with it. At any rate, I sent them money and they sent it back. I sent them certified funds and they'd send it back. And then they transfer my note over to somebody else and we'd have to start all over again. The last entity, SPS, I gave them a signed authorization to draft my account. Never did it. They never would do it. I sent them checks, a blank check. They just fill it in. I did everything I could to send them money, and they refused to do it. But why? So they could say, well, you just didn't make the payments. That's bullshit. And in any other venue, if somebody steals your car, you got to prove that you own the car in order for it to be stolen. Well, banks and the federal court says, hey, it's okay. They don't have to prove nothing. So I'm sitting here reading this, and there's a little footnote. Plaintiff alleges that a number of entities are ultimately responsible for the imminent foreclosure. Mortgage lenders, that's true. Department of Justice, I didn't say that. And what I wrote, I said the Department of Justice, the Securities Exchange Commission, Congress, they all have said this. The mortgage industry, the banking industry, Wall Street, they've created all kinds of problems. There have been settlements. Billions of dollars have been settled, and that's what I said. But somehow this attorney said I counted them as responsible. No, they're not responsible. They're part of the problem because they won't fix it. But there's just no sense. I'm a relatively simple guy, but it makes no sense that an industry can, and the reason they do is they can get by with it. Instead of they go down to the county courthouse and institute foreclosure. And that's where it ought to be settled, is right there where they started it. But no, whenever things get tough, they yank it over to federal court, where apparently the federal court, they say, hey, it's okay. You guys just keep on lying and we'll, give you the ruling. So, says here, plaintiff conveniently fails to mention that what prompted foreclosure in this case was his persistent failure to pay the mortgage. That's a goddamn lie. And excuse my French, but it's so frustrating that they can say that and they don't have to prove it. I've sent the court stack this thick of evidence, at least the only evidence I have. I mean, I didn't know at the time that I was dealing with criminals. If I had, then I might have gotten more evidence, but I've sent them evidence. And again, it's not just me. There's millions of Americans that have gone through the same exact thing. So that's a lie. And then they talk about this res judicata. I didn't record the conversations that I started having with Bank of America because I didn't know at the time they were criminals. And had I known at the time they were criminals, I would have. Well, the last time we went into court, they used this document that I didn't know at the time was fraudulent. It was filed at the county. I figured it was, but I knew that it was not correct, but I didn't know how to prove it. Well, since then, that's been over a year ago, I met David Dayen, the author of this book, and this book is well documented, documents all the things I'm talking about, called Chain of Title. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that the SEC had shut down the entity that's supposed to own my note in 2006. I didn't know any of that. So how can I bring it up as proof? Well, now they're saying, well, you didn't bring it up then. So res judicata, we'll just throw that under the judicial rug. And that ain't right. And, if the federal court, this District Court of the Western District of Texas, if they allow this to happen, they're part of the problem. And it's going to continue to happen. Millions of Americans do not have clear chain of title. And it's because of this kind of shenanigans that's happening. So, and again, if there's a rule that doesn't allow evidence to show that something criminal has happened, doesn't allow it to get into court, that ain't right. And, that's part of the problem, is that the homeowners are thrown under the bus. The system is broken. The chain of titles have been, and I would encourage anybody that owns a home, if you don't get this book and read it, you may have a sad awakening someday. And people in the courthouse that are dealing with all this stuff, if they own a home, and they're sending a mortgage payment, everybody should have the right to say something very simple: show me the chain of title. And if you're the person I need to be sending the money to, great. You should be able to prove that. But if you can't prove it, then leave me alone. And I don't know where this is going to end. All I can say is this: the system is broken. And if the federal court wants to be part of the problem and not allow a homeowner to stand up and say, show me the chain of title. You don't even have to show me the original paperwork. I don't care. I'm sure I've been told that the original paperwork gets lost. Well, that ain't right. But hey, that's okay. Show me how it was filed properly from one person to another. But make it a valid document. Don't just make it up and and copy and paste, which has been done in millions of cases. In all the states that have mortgages, and again, it's not. And the reason I'm making this video is probably more for my benefit, to just be able to put out there that a system that supports criminality needs to change. And if one person, if this helps one person say, well, I don't have to be pushed around by a system that's and by the way, going back, one other thing, that just aggravates the crap out of me. I've actually put money in a court registry for these turkeys to have, and they wouldn't sit down at a table to talk about it. So they didn't want the money. They just want the property, and they want it. Then I don't know what they're going to do. They don't have clear title, and somebody that tries to buy the property and they're ignorant of all that's going on, they're going to take hold of something that doesn't have a clear chain of title. So anyway, the government is allowing this to happen. They're actually making it profitable for these entities in Wall Street to make money off of homeowners, and the taxpayer is funding it, and that needs to be stopped. So enough of my rant. I don't know if the court will pay attention to what I'm saying here. Probably won't, but at least I've said it, and it's done. So with that, God bless, and have a peaceful, wonderful day.